Great to be here with you. Tonight we have one of the most dramatic passages in all of the Bible and probably all of literature. It's the reconciliation of Joseph with his brothers. It's the denouement of the Joseph saga when he reveals himself to his brothers. It's very, very exciting. And I'll be sharing it with you on Friday night, but I'll also give you some of the details here. What happens is, as you may recall, Joseph was toying with his brothers. And so he knew that their father's favorite was Benjamin. And the father thought that Joseph had died because his brothers told his father that he was torn apart by wild animals, and they put blood on his coat of many colors, and they brought it to Jacob, and Jacob thought he died. So now his second favorite was Benjamin, because that was also his son from Rachel in his old age. So Joseph plants a goblet in Benjamin's sack, and then he discovers it and says, aha, Benjamin has to stay here as my slave. The rabbis aren't really sure what to make of that. Like, is he just being malicious because they sold him into slavery and now he's getting revenge on them because he's all powerful and they're dependent on him? Or is he testing them? There is some argument you could be made that he was testing them, because what happens next is very interesting. Judah is the one that suggested that Joseph be sold into slavery. Now that sounds pretty bad, but his brothers were suggesting that he be killed. So compared to that, it was actually a good thing. So he was trying to save his life. And so he said to his brothers, let him be sold into slavery. Why should we kill him, and why not get some money for ourselves? So that's what happened. So now, in an interesting twist, Judah speaks up and he says to Joseph, no, let me be your slave. Release Benjamin, let me be your slave, because our father would be horrified if not only did he lose Joseph, but he lost Benjamin. He would go down to Sheol. He would go down to his grave in sorrow. One of the few references in the Torah to an afterlife, it's called Seul, or in English, Sheol, and it's not described very much, so we don't really know much about it other than people are kind of like sleeping there in a fog. Anyway, he would go down to there sad. So Joseph is toying with them, and then Judah steps up and apparently passes the test, because at that point, it said Joseph could no longer control himself. His emotions took the better of him, and he blurted out, everyone out, all of my courtiers, all of my guards, everybody out, except for the children of Israel. They all left, and Joseph is there just with his brethren. And then his first words are, first it says he cried out, and all of Egypt heard him, and all of his entourage, even outside the room. And then he cries out and he says, Ani Yosef, ha'od avi chai? I am Joseph. Does my father still live? The first thing he wants to know is his ancestry, his heritage. Does my father live? Now, the way my father interpreted that, and I'm not sure if this was an original on his part or if he got it from someone else, but what my father said this meant was, when he asked, does my father still live? What he was really saying is my father's influence still alive in me? Or am I still that young, brash, arrogant kid at 17 bragging about everybody bowing down to me? Does my father still live? My brothers sold me into slavery. I have absolute power over them, life or death. Does my father still live? Well, I use my influence in order to show compassion rather than vengeance. Or I rise above the situation. And the next words out of his mouth confirm that his father still lives in him, because he says something remarkable. Not only does he say that he forgives them, he says it wasn't even their fault in the first place. He says, don't blame yourself. Don't beat yourselves up over selling me into slavery. That wasn't even your doing. You were just being used by God to get me to Egypt so that I could save Egypt from famine by interpreting Pharaoh's dream, and then recommending that he save the food during the good years for the bad so that you could survive and Egypt could survive. You were not at fault in the least. And the Torah says he spoke to their heart. And Humar al-Libam, he spoke to their heart. And then he said, and moreover, I will take care of you. Bring your little ones, go back and bring your father. I will take care of everyone in the land of Goshen. And so that's what happens. They cry, they weep, they hug, they reconcile. And it's a very, very beautiful, touching story about our capacity to reconcile with others. Now, some people think, yeah, but the people that did wrong to me, that was really bad. That was much worse. Well, it's kind of hard to imagine anyone doing anything worse to us than first saying we're going to kill the person and then say, well, we'll just sell them into slavery. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets. And Joseph now forgives them and reconciles with them, and even says it wasn't your fault. So the message is loud and clear that we should strive to be like Joseph and forgive people, because look at the beautiful reunion that he had with his brothers. It's just a beautiful sight. If he acted petty, that never would have happened. His name Yosef means, and he shall increase. Joseph increased in his compassion and his maturity and his kindness towards others. And that's really what you could say the whole Torah is all about that, and all of Judaism is about that. It's about our ability to improve from where we are to where we could be. So Joseph starts off brash, arrogant, but that doesn't define him. Instead, he improves. That's the whole point of the story. Improvement, increase, maturity. And so it's a very, very beautiful story. I've summed it up for you. You can dust off your Bible and take a look. I will say also that reading it in the Hebrew is quite a remarkable experience. When you read in the Hebrew, you get all the nuance. I can translate it for you and you get it. But I think when I read the Hebrew and then translate it into English, you kind of get a sense of the flavor of it. That's a beautiful story. And if anybody has anything they'd like to share or inquire or bring up something different, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Sharon.
So in this parsha, Vayigash, is the story of the planted wine vessel, is that in that parsha or the previous?
It's at the end of the previous parsha. Yes.
Okay. So this is.
So I was like giving you a little of the backstory to tie it all in.
Right. Okay.
Vayigash means, and he approached. It starts, the sedra starts out after Benjamin's been set up, after Joseph toys with them and says, I'm going to take Benjamin as my slave. After all that, it starts out, I'll read it for you. Vayigash elav Yehuda v'yomer bi Adoni v'yadaber na avdecha. And it starts out, and Judah approached Joseph and said, please, your highness, forgive me for even speaking to you, but, and then he importunes upon him to take him as a slave. There's something else very interesting about this passage, which I bring up in the Shabbat celebration, which I hope everyone will not only watch, but tell your friends, because it's a remarkable passage. Something else that's quite extraordinary about this passage, and that is the figure of Judah. Now, of course, Judah is the person after which Judaism is named. And you could ask, why Judah? I mean, Jacob had 12 sons. Joseph was much more powerful. Why not Josephism? Why Judaism? What did Judah do? Well, if you read the story, you'd be hard pressed to figure it out. You might think, I don't know what he did. I don't know what's so special, but he does something that's quite remarkable. And he does it twice. Okay, one is here, it's the self-sacrifice. He's willing to sacrifice himself and say, take me as a slave. But in the beginning of the story, remember, he suggested that Joseph be sold into slavery. And now he's saying, let me be your slave. You could say that he's atoned. He realizes he made a mistake and he's seeking forgiveness. He's saying, I made a mistake. I did something wrong and I want to make it right. Perhaps that is what qualifies him to have all of Judaism named after him. There's another story also, which is a little murkier, and this involves Tamar and Leverite marriage. So in this story, which takes place earlier in the, not in this sedra, but in an earlier sedra, that Tamar is his daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law was married to Er, E-R, and Er dies without an heir. Er dies without an heir. So when Er dies, according to the laws of Leverite marriage, then the next oldest son marries the widow. So that would be Judah's next oldest son, and his name, I believe, was Onan. So Onan then marries Tamar because they want to carry on the oldest brother's seed, so to speak, and she has children, but it's like with the older brother's name. Well, Onan does something that's not very good. To put it in polite, euphemistic terminology, he is going to consummate the marriage so that he can now impregnate Tamar so that she can have children, which will be attributed to the older brother. And it said he spilled his seed. So that's a euphemistic way of saying that he didn't quite complete the impregnation. And so because of that, he was deemed to be evil and he was killed. So God doesn't like that, so they killed him. Now the fundamentalists among us and the sexual Puritans say, aha, you see what that means? That means that any type of sexual activity that doesn't lead to childbirth is evil and it's a sin, including any type of masturbation. It's all evil and it's all sinful and God hates it. But if you read the story, that's not really what it's saying. What it's saying is that if you don't fulfill the obligation of a Leverite marriage, and if you're supposed to impregnate the brother's wife and you choose not to do that, then maybe God has an issue with it. The Torah is not making a blanket condemnation about any type of sexual activity for pleasure. But the Puritans say, aha, any sexual activity that's only for pleasure and not for procreation is wrong. And that's why they do all these crazy things with no contraception, you can't have abortion, and all the other problems that follow. In any event, so Onan doesn't quite do the trick. And so now he's executed. God doesn't care for him either. So now there's a third son. So now Judah is like, oh my gosh, this lady is bad news. I mean, I've lost two sons already to her. I'm not giving up my third son. I'm not doing it. So he withholds the third son from Tamar, which according to the Leverite marriage is evil. And so now he does a big no-no. So now later on in the story, like he's going and minding his own business and Tamar is going to get back at him. So what Tamar does, because she's mad because he withheld the son, he's coming into this new city. She dresses up as a prostitute. So, I mean, the biblical stories, it's not really for the faint of heart or for, it's not even PG rated. I mean, that's why you think, well, you got kids reading this stuff? Well, I don't know if that's such a good idea. Anyway, she dresses up as a prostitute to entrap Judah to get back at him. So Judah comes along and sees her and he's interested, but he doesn't have any money to pay. So in those days, they didn't have credit cards and they also didn't have ID. So they didn't have a driver's license either. So what does he do? Well, there's certain badges of identity, like a signet ring. You'd have this ring and you would make an imprint and that's your identity, or a certain cord that you have, or a cloak. So anyway, he says, hey, I don't got any money. She says, hey, no worries. You know, just leave me your ID and I know you're good for it. So he leaves these things. And then a while later, the townspeople go after Tamar and say, she's a prostitute. She should be stoned to death. So then Judah's like leading the charge. Yeah. We should stone her to death. And then Tamar says, well, by the way, do you want to know who was one of my customers? It was you, Judah. And so then Judah does something that's quite remarkable considering the level of respect that was given to women in those days, which was very, very little, the status of woman. He says, she is right and I am wrong. I have committed a grave sin. And then he admits the whole thing. I withheld my son. It was wrong. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That, my friends, is the first instance in the Torah of somebody saying, I made a mistake. I was wrong. And so it's the second time he does it. He does it there, and then he also does it in the Joseph story. And so many of the sages think that is why we're named Jews, and we're named after him. The ability to say, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I can do better, I'm sorry. That's what being religious is all about. It's humbling yourself and saying, I was wrong, I can do better. And that is the remarkable thing about this passage. Even more than Joseph saving Egypt and all the other miracles of the dreams being interpreted, he said, I was wrong, I can do better, and he improved. So that's the whole message of Vayigash. That's why you could say this is one of the preeminent passages in the entire Torah. And it's the denouement, or the climax of the Joseph story. Now, I would have said all of that on Friday night in this service, but Sharon gives me very strict marching orders. You got like 5 minutes. It's all coded, and I'm happy to say that she does, because when you're required to fit it into a certain time frame, the service flows better. So that's why this is a good opportunity to expound upon the Torah reading, because he can't get into it at that time, and most of the people don't have that long an attention span on the video to listen to it. But that's why I'm glad we do these sessions, because this passage is definitely worth going into. Now, some of them are not. Some of them is just one grisly sacrifice after another. But this is a good story. All right, anybody else have any comments or questions or thoughts? Yeah,
I want to share that this Friday night's pre-recorded service, which we did today, and I just working on it, and I'm going to be working on it after this. It is just fabulous. Rabbi's pieces are amazing. It's very upbeat and exciting, and the whole service is relatively short, 51 minutes, and it's really packed and jammed with the best of the best. I think you'll really love it. It's got a flavor of Israel throughout the whole thing, and we've got a lot of Israeli participants in it, and I think you'll really, really enjoy it. So
yeah, I agree with Sharon, and it is a collaborative effort in that there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of people involved in it giving their input. If you left me to my own devices, you don't really know where I might be going off on different things, but I'm somewhat trainable. And so this particular Shabbat, I think if you like inspiration, positive feelings, and uplift, you'll get it here. It's a really good passage, and I will tell you confidentially what's going on behind the scenes, just so you know. So I'm technologically challenged. I'm not very good at this stuff. And it took a long time for me to learn how to record a video. I actually do it myself. I don't use Ari, I don't have Brandon, I don't have Francine. I go into my little room, they're all gone. I do it myself and I record it. And I'm pretty proud of myself. It's like, I figured out how to do it. But it took a long time, and I'm still not that proficient. And it was a while since I did the last one, so I kind of forgot like how I did it. So what happened was, there's these two little pieces that I have to like attach to my tie and attach to the camera, and and I'm used to doing it, but I hadn't done it in a while, so I just didn't do it. The pieces I didn't even attach. So I'm shooting the video without that, and I'm doing the whole thing, and I'm clicking. It's like, yeah, this is good. I like it. And a lot of times I have to do 3, 4, 5, 6 takes over and over and over, and it comes out okay. But this was like, yeah, this is coming out good. I liked how it came out, and I'm done. And I said, wow, that was good. I hope it came out. I hope it came out, because half the time I forget to do something, and it's a bummer. It doesn't come out. So anyway, I plug it all in, and I'm listening, and it's like, wow, this is really soft. Like, I don't know what happened. And then I turn up my volume, and then, oh, I can hear it now. I guess it's okay. And then I send it to Sharon, and she goes, that was really, really, really soft. And I don't know if I can use it. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh my, I'm an idiot. I forgot to plug in these things. I didn't even know it could work without these things. I just figured it was a bust, but somehow it came out. So I said to Sharon, I said, yeah, I know the sound's not too good, but it's going to take me a while to do that again. And if I tried it again, it's not going to come out that good. See what you can do.
But Arnie
Anyway,
came through, and
yeah,
Arnie
she worked her
corrected
magic.
Arnie
She sent it
corrected
to
the
Arnie.
audio, and it's fine.
Yeah, Arnie worked his magic. The quality of the sound isn't the best, but it's good enough. So it came out all right.
It's not,
Anyway,
not good enough. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Anyway, take a listen, and I do encourage you to send it out to other people. I don't say that every time. Some of the services are better than others, but this is like a stellar passage. It's really good. And Sharon has some really cool videos. And except I don't know if we have any of my adaptations. I don't think so. I think if you want to.
Not in this one.
Okay, well, it's not perfect.
We got 3 great Israeli pieces, and really,
yeah,
really.
Well, I guess they can stand up to my adaptation. The Israeli music is really cool. I mean, and I'm wearing my patriotic outfit because this is December 7th, a day that will live in infamy. In fact, it's the 80th anniversary. And we definitely lament the passing of Bob Dole. And it's really remarkable when you think about it. This guy was seriously injured in the war. You know, his like right arm was useless, and he couldn't even cut food, or he couldn't. But the guy didn't complain. He was just very tough. He was very proud to serve his country, and he got along with everybody. Imagine that. I mean, he was on friendly terms with Democrats. He worked deals with Democrats. He lived in an age where people actually talked to each other and worked together and made things happen. And if we want to honor his memory, the best way to do that is get together with people from another party and start building bridges. We can do it one at a time and build from there. And we got to encourage our politicians to do that. And I'm really hoping that in these dialogues that we do, I'm looking around for Republicans all the time that want to, I contact the Republican Party and say, send me some people. And it's kind of hard to do it, but I'm going to keep making a concerted effort, because what Bob Dole was able to do, his heroism, his ability to cross party lines, his patriotism, he was a great guy. And I don't agree with him on a whole bunch of issues. I don't agree with him, but it doesn't mean a darn thing as far as evaluating him. He did what he thought was right. Might not be what I think is right, but he had integrity, he had goodness, he had patriotism. And we need to honor his memory and try to do the same thing. Anybody else? Anybody want to share anything?
You have anything to say about Pearl Harbor? And
well, today is the day of infamy, December 7th, 1941. And it's 80 years. Woo.
Yeah. Amazing. Sid, I know you served. Yeah, we should just give thanks for all of our veterans and the amazing courage that they showed.
Yes.
Another thing, of course, go ahead, Stanley.
Oh, I was going to say, has anybody ever visited the USS Arizona out in Hawaii?
I have not been to Hawaii. But
Stanley,
I did watch the
movie.
I watched the Pearl Harbor movie, and I think it pretty well summed up what happened that day. Pretty unreal.
Yeah.
But
well, I wasn't around then, but it seems to me like somebody wasn't doing their job as far as our defenses, because they should have known. Not that they should have known for sure that Japan was going to attack, but they should have known that that was a possibility. Somebody should have been like, they don't have resources. We're threatening their hegemony in Asia. Maybe we should be on guard. I mean, they came over with all these planes, and we were just sitting ducks and totally clueless. And then also, what was, I think, pretty shameful is that we had no inclination to even get involved in World War II. We had this neutrality that we took. I mean, eventually we moved off it a little bit, but no, we're just going to sit this one out until we were attacked by Japan. I mean, I started to think what would have happened if we weren't attacked by Japan and we just sat it out and we just waited around, and then Germany maybe took over Europe, and then maybe we said, maybe we ought to get involved. I mean, it's really scary to think about the fact that we were just willing not to get involved under this Lindbergh-inspired pro-Nazi America First sloganeering. But once we were attacked by Japan, that whole movement just died. Yeah, the America First movement just totally disappeared.
Yeah.
And it clearly was. I mean, they call it the greatest generation, and that time period just forged really remarkable values and qualities in people that we really need today.
Perhaps it wouldn't have been 6 million Jews died. Perhaps it would have been 10 million or more.
Yeah, right. It could have been. Yeah, they could have all been wiped out. Yeah, it's horrifying to think of what would have happened if we didn't enter, and also what would have happened to Europe. I mean, to England and France, and you know, the people that would have been killed and the cultural loss. Yeah, it's horrible to think about. Yeah, it's a lot easier to sit back and do nothing. That's what people want to do. Like even today, we got serious problems, and people just think, why bother getting involved? Let's just sit back and do nothing and hope for the best. So it's an abject lesson.
When you see what they did when they came on the coast of France and landed in Normandy, and how many people died just getting through the water from their ships onto the beach and all that. It's just amazing what they did in that, you know, and if they hadn't done that, who knows what would have happened either. So
yeah, we were visited by Bill Schwartz, who's still alive and well over at Sinai Residences, and he was like one of the leaders of D-Day invasion, and he went in there, and it's just I can't even imagine what it would be like to just walk into a hail of bullets, not know, am I going to die? Am I going to get horribly maimed and wounded? Am I going to be left to rot on a beach? I mean, this was just horrific what people went through in order to save civilization. So we owe a debt of gratitude to those folks.